I am an enormous fan of Black Mirror, so I was very happy to see that Bandersnatch was released over the holidays from Netflix. Charlie Brooker and company, the people that have been putting these Black Mirror episodes and seasons together, have done some really subversive mind trips with the stories that they have told that are always very current and scary and frightening and freaky and always make you think. And Bandersnatch is absolutely one of those kinds of experiences. This is a choose-your-own-adventure movie, and it's gotten a lot of hype in the video game space because, of course, you know, video gamers that have been around for a while can remember Sega CD classics like Night Trap and Sewer Shark. I hated those games. I have this... I guess my neck gets kind of clenched up a little bit when I think about full motion video choose-your-own-adventure experiences because of how much I hated those Sega CD games. So I went into this movie with some trepidation because I knew that I was going to pick up the Xbox. I watched it on the Xbox One. I was going to pick up my controller and I was going to select options and watch narrative unfold. Bandersnatch is the story of a young computer game maker in the 80s, which, you know, right away you've got my attention. It's cool. He's making games for, I think it's the Spectrum, which was it's a big system in the UK. This is all set in the UK in the 80s. And he's listening to Thompson Twins on his cassette recorder, his Sony Walkman. And he's going to pitch his big game idea to a big game publisher in the 80s and hoping to get a little bit of support to help him realize his dream. He's basing his game on the rantings and ravings of a guy that went crazy and did some heinous things. So there's this supernatural kind of element superimposed over all of this as well. And so what happens is that you encounter individuals throughout the story of Bandersnatch, and based on some of your answers and replies, you're going to change the tone and the direction of how the story unfolds. It doesn't unfold in a different way enough, and of course I'm somebody that's gone back and watched a bunch of the endings. And one of the issues that I had with the movie is that I couldn't just, because it's half game or 20% game or whatever, you kind of want to just like rewind quickly and go back, but you can't really do that. There are these go back points throughout the experience that will let you go back to a specific scene and then sort of retake it and try to navigate to where you want to go, or if you want to see everything, that's the way that you do it. And I thought that was cool. I also thought that the little Easter eggs that are inside of the Bandersnatch movie are pretty sweet as well, connections to previous Black Mirror episodes. But the movie is never not aware of how clever it is, and I think that gets in the way. And I also think the idea that you have to construct all of this extra narrative in order to give the user choices really removes some of the menace and some of the weight and some of the significance of the overall narrative experience. I think it's storytelling that we've seen, especially with Metalhead and the USS Callister episodes and things like that, where Black Mirror has hit these high marks that it's hard not to hold it in direct competition with those titles. It's hard not to say, well, you've done better stuff before than this. And I almost wish that it wasn't associated with Black Mirror, although it's a perfect fit because of the technology-infused dystopia that is always sort of this, streak through a lot of the Black Mirror content. So it's a good fit in terms of that regard. It fits within the brackets of how you describe Black Mirror to people.
You heard it here first.
There's obviously a great deal of attention technically to build something pretty slick here and pretty cool, but the emotional impact of Bandersnatch doesn't resonate. And I think that is the casualty of giving your story all of these different sort of forks in the road. This is kind of what happens. I still have not played, this is much better than Sewer Shark or Night Trap. Let's be clear about that, okay? This does not stack up next to those Sega CD abominations. I really hated those games. This is clearly leagues better than those old crappy games, but it's just not powerful enough. I'm not thinking of the resonance of this show. I'm not, reflecting back on that hapless computer programmer and all the weird things that befell him. I don't know if it's because you have all of these different forks in the road that sort of diminish any of those choices to begin with. Because you have all of these choices in your narrative, none of the choices are right or wrong, and so they have less impact. I don't know. I don't know if it's a question of the right story hasn't fit this kind of creative format, or if it's the creative format itself. But for whatever reason, I thought Bandersnatch was cool, but I'm certainly not reflecting on it with the warmth and the, the respect that I have given to previous Black Mirror experiences.
How long can happiness realistically last, anyhow?
Bandersnatch is definitely worth checking out, though. If you are a game fan, if you are a Black Mirror fan, if you grew up in the 80s, there's lots of like nice little hooks in there. But for me, I just thought it was a little slight. Maybe if it had gone on longer, maybe if there were more choices, maybe if there were more shocks, because there are a couple, but maybe it needed more. I thought it was okay. I'm going to give Bandersnatch a 7 out of 10.